down to the bloody end of the 0-1. The looper backing up Valdez. He's got it, and the Red Sox clinch the win. Wouldn't you know it would be hit to hit.
Unbelievable. Ball will find you.
Red Sox win it 6-5 in 10 innings, and they take the first two.
Just man, we have called 2 wild games here in Toronto. I mean, it has been absolute chaos here. A lot of walks, a lot of different things happening, but good job by the Red Sox to pull this one out in extra innings.
This is where we begin on the baseball hour tonight. The Red Sox are still mathematically alive. I'll see if I can find the tweet from Tom Caron of Nesson earlier in the day. Tom Caron of Nesson, again, works for the network owned by the team, hosts Red Sox programming nightly, pregame and postgame. And Caron had a tweet out there saying that according to Fangraphs, and Jimmy, I don't have it in front of me. Maybe
I have it in front of me.
Oh, you do?
Love TC. Have his tweets on alert.
Okay, because this is the actual math of it. If you could just read it, please.
Tom Caron, 4 hours ago. Daily update. Red Sox only chance to make the playoffs is if they win all 4 games. The Royals lose at least 4 of the final 5. The Twins lose at least 3 of the final 5. And the Mariners lose 1 of the final 4. Fangraphs gives that a 0.6% chance of happening. 0.6% chance of happening.
Okay, so again, the Red Sox have to win out, and basically everyone else has to lose all the way in. With the exception of, I think he said Detroit and who was the other one? Kansas City can only win 1 of their remaining games.
There's no mention of Detroit in the tweet.
Okay. So
when hosts aren't listening.
But you get the idea. Okay, 0.6%. So effectively, if you believe in the math, effectively the season is over, which again we can get to momentarily. Okay, Jared disagrees, and that is the little voice of Jared Carrabis you hear in the background. The big voice is coming. Jared Carrabis of Underdog Fantasy is presented by Blue Moon Belgian White. Be sure to relax and enjoy the ball game with Blue Moon Belgian White. That's Blue Moon, born in a ballpark and brewed for baseball. So let me get this out of the way. Do you honestly think that they are still alive?
They are still alive.
Okay, that they are going to, you actually said to me this morning they're going to make the playoffs.
It could happen, Tony.
Okay, I didn't say it could happen. Of course it could happen, but the odds are 0.6%.
Okay, it's still a chance.
So would you agree, though, that the large majority of people wrote off the Red Sox a long time ago?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is this. When you look at it in retrospect, and right now, and I got to punch it up again because I don't have it directly in front of me, but the teams that are in possession of the final wild card position are Baltimore and Detroit, both of whom have 83 wins. The Orioles are in front of them with 87. If Kansas City and Detroit win out, they're going to end up with 88 wins, which means the final wild card spot will come in will come in at that number. But that's only if they win out. In all likelihood, the number's probably going to come in around 86. Meaning, if you had won 86 games, if the Red Sox had won just 86 games, they could have made the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. So when you look back at the way the organization approached the season, I'm not really talking about the players as much, because the players who are here, generally give their all when they're on the field. And I would say the same of the staff, although I can certainly think of a handful of games that I thought Alex Cora kind of, prematurely pulled the ripcord. But let's just leave it at the organization for now. Did the organization blow an opportunity to make the playoffs, given what the field looked like in the American League?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The question is really, did they do enough in the offseason to get to 86 wins? No, they didn't. Obviously, they didn't make the big move, but there were plenty of other smaller moves. Like I look at the name Jack Flaherty and what
it's an easy one, right, Jared?
Yeah, the Tigers, what they gave up or what they had paid, it was like $14 million.
1 year, $14 million, I think.
There you go. Yeah, okay. Does that make a big difference? I mean, if you don't trade Chris Sale, which I think is, hindsight's 2020, and we've had this discussion, I'm not going to go down that road, but if you don't trade Chris Sale, you probably make the playoffs.
Okay, even if you do trade Chris Sale,
You can still make the playoffs, yeah.
Right, they could have done it and stayed under the luxury tax.
They could have made the playoffs without signing Flaherty and still with trading Chris Sale. Like this team, look at when they came out of the second half, they just didn't play good baseball. It's not like they were devastated by injuries, like they were red hot, and then guys in the second half started to go down. Like, no, they just didn't play good baseball in the second half.
So I'm wondering if fans look at it this way or whether they just wrote them off so long ago. But I do think when you get to the finish line and you look at it and you say, well, what did it ultimately take to get in? We knew going into the year that the field was going to be bad. We knew there were going to be some bad teams in the league. The White Sox were projected to be historically bad out of the chute. The Angels were projected to be really bad. We knew that a lot of teams were going to be in the middle, were going to be average at best, but that it might not take a whole hell of a lot. So again, you started the offseason with the free agency and the unwillingness to sort of step in and be a little more aggressive, whether it was Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell or Jack Flaherty.
Well, how different would your season be if your offer for Imanaga was better?
Another one.
Yeah.
Do you also look at the trading deadline at all?
No, I don't, because the moves that they made, I approved of at the time, and nobody made the big move. I mean, you look at what they did. Like Danny Jansen was a nothing burger, but Sims and Garcia, yeah, I mean, like they were pitching well at the time that they were acquired, and then they stunk after the fact. So you went for it, you whiffed, but no, I don't really look at the deadline so much.
Okay, we had a caller who checked in yesterday and said, if you look at the period just before the deadline, where the Red Sox went out to Los Angeles, and I think Kenley Jansen blew the first game of that series, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think it was the second game. I think it was the Saturday.
Okay, so, and I'll take your word for it, but I know there was a blown save in L.A.
Yep.
And then they went to Colorado, and Jansen couldn't pitch. If you remember, he did not join the team to Colorado,
Yep.
which is something the team knew at the beginning of the season. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies. A caller said that at that point, right in the middle there before the deadline, that was, in retrospect, a really damaging weekend. He thinks that they lost a playoff spot that weekend. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I wouldn't point to any one series and be like, that's where they lost it. I mean, you could point to any of the losses or a lot of the losses and be like, yeah, like if this went this way and that went that way, then you win the game. Like that's just how baseball works. But no, I do think that Dodger series, I remember that Sunday, because the first 2 games were games that they should have won.
They were in it.
Yeah, I think that Sunday game, I was like, all right, yeah, like maybe not this one. But the first 2 games, they should have taken 2 out of 3 in that series. There were a lot of series like that where, I mean, look at like how they played against the White Sox. They went 4-3 against the White Sox. Like that's pathetic. This is the worst team of all time, and you are 1 game over 500 in 7 games. Like there's plenty. Like, if you were to pull up the 2024 schedule in front of me right now, I could go through all the losses and be like, well, if this happened and that happened, and it's just I'm not going to point to any one series. Yeah, they could have played better. Like we're looking at the Chris Sale trade and what they did at the deadline, all of that. If everything stays the same, you still trade Sale before the season. You still, I guess, come way below expectations after the full throttle stuff last offseason. Everything goes exactly the same. I still think that this team could have won 86 games.
Definitely.
They absolutely were capable of that. With even now, look at the way that they're playing. Rafael Devers done for the year. Kenley Jansen's done for the year. You're still winning baseball games. So there's plenty of times where you could point to during losses where it's like, yeah, but if you had this go this way and that, whatever. It's like, okay, but you've won 4 straight games. This is the first time they won like 3 straight games in what feels like forever. Since like the end of June,
beginning of July.
Yeah, they won 5 straight during that stretch. So I think that was the last time they strung together at least 3 consecutive wins.
No, it's been like 2 months.
Yeah.
It's been 2 months since they've been able to do that. But I am, again, I'm curious to hear from fans. Do you think the Red Sox blew an opportunity? Because I don't think there's any question. Given where this thing has now ended up, 4 games to go. The Red Sox will be off tomorrow. They wrap up in Toronto tonight. They're off Thursday. They come home and play Tampa Bay at Fenway Park for the weekend. Was it a blown opportunity? And look, I think it's indisputable. And Jared, if I say to you, because again, there were a lot of blown games in there. Mm-hmm. What blame, if any, do you give to the players? or let me say uniform personnel. And do you think that they sort of took the foot off the gas prematurely? Because it felt like Cora took the foot off the gas prematurely a couple of weeks ago. And then, all of a sudden they ended up closer than maybe they thought they were going to end up.
I don't know, because I think we looked at the white flag moment being when they designated Rich Hill. And it's like, all right, well, they're going to give some guys a look. But I look at it as that's when Guerrero was the corresponding move, and he's been great for them. So it's like you almost went for it even more by, it's like, yeah, thanks, Rich Hill. It's a nice story. I love Rich Hill. But ever since Guerrero's been here, that's been like a weapon in your bullpen. It's like, all right, instead of trotting out a 44-year-old lefty that's throwing 86-mile-an-hour fastballs, like, let's give this dude that throws 99 out of the bullpen a chance.
Okay, do you think they did it with the intention of winning this year, or getting a look for him going into get a look at him going into next year?
Getting a look at the guy, but I think that they were very high on him. Like before the move was announced, I was talking to some people over there, and was told, like, hey, this is what we're doing, and we're pumped to see this guy. It wasn't like we're not really sure what to make of him. They were like, yeah, like once he gets up here, like, watch the fastball. And here he is throwing 99, going toe-to-toe with Vladdy Jr. last night. And so I think it was both. It was, we got to see what we have here, but I think we know we have something pretty good here. So it's both.
So he's been really good. Yeah. I mean, there's no two ways about that. One more thing we're going to play for Jared and for all of you. This comment by Alex Cora that he made after the game. I want to play it for Jared now. I'm going to give him a little time to sort of soak it in, think about it, and you can do the same. 617-779-0985. Then we'll go to break. But here is Cora last night after the victory.
It was fun. We put ourselves in this position, and obviously it's not a perfect one, but for us, it's just go out there and try to make it count, and the boys, they did an amazing job fighting all the way to the end. We used everybody, and it was one of the most gratifying wins since I've been here. fun. We put ourselves in this position, and obviously it's not a perfect one, but for us, it's just go out there and try to make it count, you know. And the boys, they did an amazing job fighting all the way to the end. We use everybody, you know, and it was one of the most gratifying wins since I've been here.
So again, that was Alex Cora. Decided to play it for you again. Some people just joining the show. We'll take some of your calls too. Just my personal 2 cents, Jared, because I know you really want my opinion.
I do. I need it.
And that is that, I don't know, I feel like Cora's patting himself on the back a little bit. Like the comment of, you know, we're still alive, we're still here. Jimmy, what was the very beginning of that again? I'm sorry.
It was fun. We put ourselves in this position, and obviously it's not a perfect one, but for us, it's just go out there and try to make it count.
Okay, again, you know, put ourselves in this position as if it's some sort of major achievement. And look, I'm not telling you that, you know, look, they're playing it out. I mean, at least this week, there were a couple of games in there where I thought they weren't. Pulling Criswell when he had 4 perfect innings, not bringing Kenley Jansen into a tie game at home against the White Sox when you had warmed them up. Like, so I look at a couple of those and say, well, what'd you pull the plug on those for? So I do feel like Cora's kind of, you know, talking out of both sides of his mouth a little bit. That one of, you know, on the one hand, he was basically managing as if they were out of it and putting the interests of his players first. And then now wants to say, well, we put ourselves in this spot. When the fact is they're still just 80 and 78. I mean, I would hardly categorize this as some sort of success of a season. I'm not telling you it was a complete failure, although I do want to ask Jared about something Cora said the other day about the starting pitchers. In fact, Jimmy, I don't think I put that on the list, but the one that we played yesterday, Cora on the starters, if we could grab that, please. In the interim, we'll take a couple of calls. Martin's in Texas. Martin, go ahead.
Hey, guys. I think one thing that's being severely overlooked with this is something that it kind of is covered by what Tom Warner said to start with the season, where he said that, you know, if we just improve our defense, get a couple more wins, we can make the playoffs on that alone. Well, after Trevor Story went down, that period before they moved Rafael at a shortstop full time is when they gave up the most unearned runs in baseball, and they still lead the league in that statistic. I think they need to go into next year without having to rely on Trevor Story's defense to make or break their season, and they need to figure out what to do with the bevy of outfielders that we got. They can't start the first game next season without figuring those two things out, and I don't even want to get into the whole pitching thing.
Okay, Martin, thank you for the call. Let me ask Jared this, because I'm curious as to how people look at the whole Trevor Story thing. Mm-hmm. Getting Story back. Let's just say they had Story for the whole year. Did they make it?
Yep. Unequivocally, yes. Yeah. I think, you know, I've been having conversations about this with some people around the team, not employees of the team, but people around the team. And it's kind of all going to the same place of you like Casas, you like Devers, but you got to pick one. Like, who's staying in the infield? Because it's not the outfield defense that's killing this team. It's the infield defense. So,
particularly up the middle.
Right. But even
maybe
still,
the left side. Yeah, but go ahead.
Even still, like the guys in the corners are very imperfect defensively.
On most teams.
Yeah, but on this team specifically, I mean, you're the unearned runs is like inexcusable, and it's noticeably higher than the other teams. So if you're going to improve that number, it starts with the infield defense, and Trevor Story certainly isn't the problem. I know that he's got the injury thing since he's been here, but this year in particular, that was like a freak accident. It's not like a conditioning issue. It's not like his body's failing him. Like he dove for a ball and cracked his shoulder. Like that it's going to happen. So
it's not a chronic injury. Yeah.
No. But yeah, I think that like they're going to eventually over the next couple of years have to decide. Like, you know, we've got to improve the infield defense. That's really killed them this year, and I think it's made a big difference having Trevor Story back. I tweeted it last night. I was like, this guy makes plays that no other infielder on the roster can make. He just makes those plays.
So the reason I asked you that is because, to Martin's point, if they were to come back, let's just say with the same team, but Story's healthy, is that good enough?
Next year?
Yeah.
No.
And I'm talking about from a fan standpoint. In other words, is it enough for the fan base to bring back Trevor Story, come back healthy with a healthy Trevor Story, bring back effectively the same roster, have the same kind of offseason they had a year ago, and say to the fan base, if we had Story, we would have made the playoffs. That's what we think, and this is why you should believe in the team. Is that enough?
No, because I don't think that it sounds weird to say, but 86 wins and making the playoffs shouldn't be the goal. And I don't think that it is. Obviously you're going to get the influx of prospects next year, but you want to put them in a position like we talked about in weeks past. Once they get here, they should be asked to do relatively minimal performance. Where it's like, well, 7, 8, 9, bottom third of the order, and we're not asking you to come be the saviors of the franchise, kind of like they're being propped up to be. I think that they welcome that challenge. I think that they will ultimately be very good big league ball players, but at the arrival, that's not what we need them to be. So, you're gonna have to look at the Tyler O'Neill situation. Like, you make him the qualifying offer. It's like, I don't know that I'm doing that, but you're gonna have to find that right-handed power somewhere. They can't just sit back and be like, hey, we're just running it back with the same team that won you, call it 2 games. Call it 83 games, whatever it is. Can't do that. You have to at least make some sort of concerted effort to be like, hey, we're building off of what we did last year. But at the same time, what does that even mean? Like, building off the success of the 2024 Boston Red Sox, Kenley's gone. Like, there's a lot of guys that are just not coming back. You need a closer. Can you go into next year being like, yeah, Liam Hendricks is the guy? How do you know? When's the last time he threw a baseball?
Exactly.
So there are a lot of question marks. You're not going to roll back the same team, but there are, I think, a lot of openings.
So I like the way Jared put it when he said winning 86 games should not be the goal. And I remember not so
That's
long.
the Mariners. That's what the Mariners
exactly.
are saying.
Like
yeah.
what? So the goal is to be the third wild card team. That's the goal. Squeak into the playoffs. Do the bare minimum. I remember when the Red Sox annual goal was 95 wins. 95. They thought they had the resources to win 95 games every single year. That was their goal. 95 puts you in contention for the division, and 95 assures you of a wild card spot. That's what the goal should be, not 86. 95. Right now, let's just say they're aiming for 85. That's 10 games too low, and that's a lot. That is a lot. Cam and Marlboro. Cam, go ahead.
Hey, Tony. I think there's just a big disconnect between Cora and the rest of the coaching staff, and we're starting to see that towards the end of the year here. I was at the game with my father last Friday where they struck out 20 times. They couldn't get a guy in from third base on multiple occasions, and we were screaming to fire Pete Fatsi. He's a nobody, really didn't have much of a background before he came to the Red Sox. And I think if you look at the defensive problems, Kyle Hudson's an issue. You look at the pitching coach, and I've spoken about that before. I feel like these aren't Cora's guys, and something needs to be done about the pitching, about the coaching staff in general. And even somebody like Jason Varitek, who's your game plan manager, you really need to look at him as well. Just look at Cassis, what he said. I had a humble approach at the plate, and he hit 3 home runs. Why weren't you focusing on contact the whole year? I'll hang up now for you guys.
Yeah, so Cam, I do wonder. Let me ask Jared, and I'm just giving you my gut, Jared. I don't have any inside info. I sense that Pete Fatsi's ass is on the line. That's sort of how it feels to me, based on a comment Cora made not too long ago about how they were going to take a hard look at their offense, and it was in the wake of one of those big strikeout games. It wasn't the 20 strikeout game, but it was in a series in which they struck out a lot, which led me to believe that maybe they're going to look at Fatsi and make a change there. But you tell me, is it more about the hitters or more about the approach?
Both. I think it's both. You look at the second half, or at least call it the last month and change, and I think it kind of stuck out in our minds that maybe it was the pitching that faltered, when really, obviously we know the offense wasn't great, but the pitching's been pretty good. We're talking
of late,
mid-twos. Yeah, mid-twos. They held up their end of the bargain whereas the offense didn't. Is that enough? Is that enough to fire a guy? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I would say that for when you had that stretch of the starting rotation faltering and they weren't holding up their end of the bargain, it was the offense that kept you alive. It was the offense that when they were cruising from mid-June through the end of July, it was really the offense that was lighting the fire under this team. So I don't know. I mean, I guess that's an evaluation question. Like, I'm not one of those guys that's going to look at it and say, well, the offense completely failed, so that's why they didn't make the postseason. There's a multitude of reasons why, if and when this team doesn't make the postseason, why they wouldn't have gotten there. The offense over the last month and a half is certainly one of them.
So I just wonder, again, reading the tea leaves and trying to, decipher some of the stuff Cora said during the year. At one point early in the season, they had a rally where they did not have an extra base hit. They put the ball in play. There were a couple walks in there. And Cora said, this is what I want. Some people around here may not like it. I thought it was a reflection on Breslow and maybe the analytics geeks upstairs who were preaching launch angle and home runs as being the most efficient way of scoring. Then, not too long ago, again, he made a different comment about sort of taking a hard look at the number of strikeouts when the offseason comes and the year ends. Now I wonder if he wasn't talking about Fatsy and their offensive approach, at least at the big league level. And, the game is changing, right? This is, it's getting harder to score, more spin than ever before, and putting the ball in play can be effective. Speed's a bigger element in the game than it was 3 years ago. So to me, I just think there's an interesting discussion to be had there. It'll be interesting to see what the Red Sox do. Anyway, Kevin Majori's got your headlines here. Don't go anywhere. Jared Carrabis with us for the remainder of the program. We'll take your calls as well. 617-779-0985 on the Baseball Hour.
of that foundation of 30 starts, what does that represent for a pitcher?
You got to ask him. But I know that for us, all these kids that we pitched this season, not kids, man, they're 26, 27, right? But, they took a step forward, and that was the plan. Going into the season, when Lucas went down, and obviously G-Witt, they knew that they were going to pitch. And the way they finish in the season, let's see what happens, they've been great, throwing strikes, inducing to weak contact, keeping the ball in the ballpark, and giving us 5 or 6 innings every outing.
We played that for you last night. To Alex Cora on the development of the young pitchers. I want to get Jared Carrabis' assessment of it. I gave you mine last night, but I want to get Carrabis' thoughts on that as well. We'll take a couple of more calls first. Charles is in Iowa. The subject line is Pigeons, Pelicans, and Red Sox, whatever that means. Charles in Iowa. Charles, what do you got?
Hi, Tony. I'm trying to talk about a study that B.F. Skinner did in the 1940s. He taught pigeons how to direct bombs to the center of warships. And we can't teach baseball hitters to stay away from pitches that are 3.5 feet outside the strike zone. I'm thinking it only takes a scientific approach to do this. And I know everybody's on Fatsy lately, but I think he deserves it.
Okay, so can I ask you quickly, what do pelicans have to do with it? It says pigeons.
Well, that's the name of the study he did. It was pigeons in a pelican. He had them in an enclosure that he called a pelican. You can it's a short 10-page study that you can find on the internet. It's very interesting. And of course, B.F. Skinner is the psychologist of the century. Okay. And he's from a hometown of Cambridge, Mass.
All right, well, good to know. I'll look it up. Pigeons, pelicans, and what was the other one?
I don't know. I think he said Red Sox.
Yeah, it might have been the Red Sox, yeah. So, in any case, tell you what, let me get this call out of the way, too. Well, first of all, do you agree that the Red Sox can't lay off a pitcher 3 feet off the strike zone?
Some guys. I mean, it's Rafael is the first name that comes to mind, but, I mean, hard to get on him when he had the big hit last night.
O'Neill is another one who will chase. Absolutely. Steve in Fall River. Steve, go ahead.
How are you, Tony? I got to tell you, they're going to finish a couple of games out of this wild card, and the epitaph will be they didn't do enough at the All-Star at the trade deadline and pitching. But the starting pitching has held up remarkably well. They had 15 or 16 blown saves, and that's the real epitaph. The starting pitching, we didn't think these guys could go past their all-time marks of innings, and they've done it. So very good. Now people are spoiling for let's go out and sign a big free agent, have another bad contract. You know who I'm done with, Tony, on this roster?
Who?
The third baseman, Devers.
Okay.
Get him out of here. He's got the most value. He's not going to work. He's going to be a Dustin Pedroia. Bad news, and he's not a leader.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to let you go because a couple things. One, you were starting to break up. The phone connection wasn't great. There is zero chance they're going to get rid of Rafael Devers. Okay, zero. And I'm not, look, if you don't like Devers and you think he's not worth the money, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I'm not going to fight you on that. But there's zero chance. First of all, if he's as bad as you say he is, they have no shot at moving the contract. Okay, no one's going to take it if he's as bad as you say. Secondly, they need power in the middle of their lineup to begin with. So, Jared, you I sort of heard you snicker when he brought up Devers. Why?
Yeah, because that's just a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, he's the best hitter on the team. Is he a good defender? No, but you didn't pay him for his defense. He's never been a good defender. You're asking him to do something. Same thing with the leadership. I don't know where that comes from. You're asking him to be someone that he's never been. They paid him to hit, and he hits. He got hurt. He played through it as much as he possibly could have. They didn't shut him down until they felt like they were out of it anyway. I bet you right now that if the Red Sox were a game out of the wild card, Devers is still out there. I think even just like the threat of Devers in the lineup, he would be taking the at-bats and the plate appearances. So, no, I think it's ridiculous to say that, oh, yeah, this team would be better without Rafael Devers. Are you kidding me?
So before I get to the pitching, let me just ask you this about Devers. If they have to move him to DH, first base is a different argument.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to move him to DH, is he worth it on that contract?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, he what did he have, like a 146 OPS plus or something like that? Yeah, and I'm interested to see, because I think the red flags started to pop up for Cora watching him throw. They were like, man, like those throws don't look good. We've seen Devers hurt at the plate, and he just battles through it. That whole 21 playoff run, he would swing out of his ass, and his arm would be hanging, but he would still hit bombs. I think when he was trying to throw the baseball across the diamond, that's when they were like, all right, we got to shut this down. Like, this is just sad at this point. But
so, look, at the end of the day, I'll tell you he's worth it, too, if he hits like he can hit.
Yeah.
But they gave him that contract on the premise that he's a corner infielder.
They gave him that contract to hit, Tony.
Yeah, but
none of it. He's never even been an average defender.
Yeah, but Jared, I'm not saying that he even has to be an average defender. I'm saying that if you can play him in the field and he doesn't kill you, which his defense was good enough to not kill you. If you could do that, then that gives you more flexibility at DH, and that is worth something. So nobody pays a DH $30 million. Nobody.
I would if it's Rafael Devers.
Okay, so
how many times did the Red Sox win a World Series where they had a fluid DH? It was always just, you're the guy.
Right.
You are the dude that smashes baseballs on this team. That's your job.
And he was paid like a DH. So, and again, I'm not telling you that it wasn't, at the end of the day, you'll take it. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you that the contract then becomes inflated. So, and they will look at that. I
don't see it that way. I don't.
They will.
They will, but it's also like, all right, if this is the dude that hits 35, 40 home runs, then that's our $30 million hitter.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. They won't look at it that way. They won't. So, and they'll skimp somewhere else as a result. That's all I'm telling you.
That's fine.
But let me ask you about the pitching. Cora said, and he used the word great. Tanner Houck, got to 180 innings the other night, basically. Bayo hit the official innings number. You need 162 to qualify for the ERA title. He basically came in at that. Cutter Crawford also around 180 innings, I believe. He's somewhere in that number.
Mm-hmm.
Houck indisputably got better this year.
Yeah.
We'll all agree on that. Okay. Tanner Houck is, again, if you go by WAR, has one of the 15 highest WARs among all starting pitchers in the big leagues. So no argument on Tanner Houck. Huge step forward. Did the other two guys get better? Stay the same or get worse?
So in the case of Brian Bayo, he's been much better since that Miami start. What was it, July 3rd? Whatever it was. First week of July. You look at that. I mean, at the beginning of the year, he was driving me nuts. I couldn't stand him. I hated the temper tantrums that he would have every single time out. I was like, where does this guy get the idea that he's so good that you're going to snap every time you give up a run? It was immature. It was very annoying. Ever since that start in Miami, he's been a completely different guy. He's striking out more guys. He seems more mature on the mound. He has more presence. He's pitching differently, all that. So yes on Brian Bayo. He's taken a step forward. With Cutter Crawford,
because the good half came in the second half.
Yeah. He made forward strides. Cutter Crawford, the home run thing is an issue for me, especially since if you're going to lead the league, I believe he didn't even give up a home run until May.
Something like that.
Yeah, like he went the whole first month of the season without giving up a home run and still led the majors in home runs allowed. That's an issue. But if I would have told you, hey, Cutter Crawford is going to make 30 starts and he's going to have an ERA in the low fours, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's awesome. You leave out the home run part of it because a lot of those home runs, not a lot of damage, solo home runs, whatever. It's not like he's going to overpower you with his fastball. He throws 91 to 93. He likes to live at the top of the zone. Some guys can get to that. If he's trying to change your eye angle and he's going 2 inches above the strike zone, some guys will swing at that and be able to just barrel it, and that's where the home runs come from because he doesn't have a ton of velocity. But he can spin it, and I'm happy. Like, I understand like the giving up the ton of home runs thing is no one likes to look at that and say, ooh, yeah, but still a good season. I don't care. A low 4 making 30 starts. Yes, sign me up for that for Cutter Crawford.
Okay, so now let me ask you this: the three of them, if those three guys come back next year and are the nucleus of your rotation, is that good enough?
Well, you also have to factor in Giolito like that, so you have room for one guy.
Okay,
that's your like Giolito's paid. Those are your 4, so you have room for one guy.
Okay, so which end do you want the one guy on?
What do you mean?
Do you want him on the front end or the back end?
Which guy?
The extra guy, the 5th guy.
Front end, yes.
Okay, so this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, you need a 1.
Okay.
You need a 1.
All right, I just want to make sure we're on the same page, Jared.
Yeah.
Because I think people are going to make too much of this, specifically in-house, that the Red Sox will look at it and go, oh, look at Houck. He's a number 1 now based on the numbers. Okay. And look at Cutter Crawford. He gave up all those home runs and he still finished in the middle of the pack or something like that. And Bayo came on at the end of the year and they will convince themselves that they don't have to spend on a front-end pitcher when I think they do. So this is what concerns me about, and look, I would say Bayo in the aggregate didn't get better and he didn't get worse. In the aggregate. The first half was worse, the second half was better. So the fact that the second half was better leads you to believe that he figured something out and he turned a corner. I need to see it again from him before I fully believe on that. And so the kid's immature. He's got stuff. It did look like he his delivery was more compact. He's still got to find the strike zone with better regularity. It was better. The second half was better. But if the Red Sox delude themselves and their fans into thinking that those 3 guys are now the 3 guys going forward and that they can just sprinkle in a couple of bums, then they're wrong. Okay, they're wrong. We'll wrap it up with Jared Carrabis. Take a couple more calls. I see you on the line, Matt in Manchester, Alex in Cambridge. We'll finish with you when we come back on the Baseball Hour. The baseball hour, that'll be on Monday. That's assuming that the Red Sox are eliminated, which they should be in the next day or so.
Well, they might not be.
Could be tonight. Could be. We'll see. Jared again, Mr. Positivity.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks you're still going to get into the playoffs.
There's a chance.
Or at least he's saying that publicly.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt in Manchester on the Red Sox. Head, Matt.
Hey, guys. So just curious on this. So, like, who makes these decisions on who's getting called up and so on? Because in what world, like, it's very frustrating now, in what world are you taking Bailey Horn over Guerrero? Like, what is Bailey? I know he's a lefty. I get it. But, he can't get lefties out. He can't get righties out. So, like, when you're in Colorado and you're bringing up Bailey Horn and Chase Anderson, where is Guerrero? Where, I know Penrod's only pitched a couple games, but where is he? Like, why? I get experience, but in that situation, you know what Chase Anderson is.
Yeah.
You know what these other guys are.
Matt, I got you.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I got you. Why didn't we see Guerrero earlier is your question. So, Jared, can you answer that?
Well, yeah, I mean, he mentioned Penrod, too. Like, Penrod was in Portland at the time, and he was in indie ball last year. Like, some of the, I don't think the Red Sox at that point were in a position to just rush these guys up to the big leagues. I still think that there's a process to all of it, and some guys do skip AAA. There are some guys that are in AA, and you're like, get them up here, and they do have success at the big league level. But the Red Sox have their process, and that's just, it is what it is. I mean, but in the specific case of Penrod, it's like, well, yeah, I understand. Like, dude's in AA. We're not going to skip AAA. And I mean, it's awesome that he's been in 3 different levels this year. It's cool to see him out there. It didn't look great last night, but no, that's a guy that up and down the organization, everyone's like, yes, Penrod, he's the guy.
I would also tell the caller, like, just be careful of making judgments on guys at this time of year. And I'm not dumping on Guerrero's look good. Penrod's look good. I'm not telling you. I'm just telling you that there hasn't been a lot of pressure on them. The games really have not meant much. They've never been in control of their own destiny. And so, judging what the Red Sox are doing is just trying to get these guys into the big leagues now with the idea that when they show up next year, they'll at least have pitched in big league games in their own heads, if that makes sense. So you put them in a big spot in a race, and you're probably not going to get the same performance. Alex is in Cambridge. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just talking about infielding and defense. There's nothing there. And I think, I don't know, is it because Alex Cora has been a utility infielder? Maybe he doesn't value defense.
So, Alex, thank you for the call. Do you think it's an issue related to the manager?
About the defense?
Yeah.
No.
Nor do I.
No.
Nor do I.
He values defense quite a bit. I mean, you saw him last night. He did a double switch in the 9th inning. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go with a better defender over there. Like, that's just, I don't know. I don't know who you blame. It's just Breslow. I mean, it's the roster construction at that point.
So, again, I say this to people all the time. Managers don't win games for you. They don't. So, I like Alex Cora as a manager. I think he's a good manager. What's that worth on a good big league team? Not anywhere near as much as the players.
$8 million.
Well, apparently. Yeah, good point. So the manager's job is to be a psychologist. Keep everybody happy.
A babysitter.
Yeah. Make sure that their problems can be expressed to the manager and the staff, that they can communicate. Try to make the work environment as comfortable and palatable for them as possible so they can give you their best. That's the manager's job. The rest of it, teaching them how to play defense. If you know how to play defense by the time you get to the big leagues, I'm not sure it's going to happen. And I've yet to meet a manager who doesn't want good defense.
Well, the other thing too, Tony, some of these younger guys that are coming up now, like these are the guys that missed out on a full year of development because of 2020. You're starting to see that now. Some of these younger guys are getting up here and they're like, missed a whole year, Like imagine being in college and you just miss your sophomore year. You're like, there's a lot of stuff in there that I missed,
So you'll be with us Monday night.
I'll be here Monday.
The season finale.
That's right.
You and I will recap the Red Sox season on Monday night.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll postseason preview. Red Sox Game 1 starter Tanner Houck. They'll probably be playing Houston.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I like the Astros.
And then we'll talk about Bregman potentially being a member of the Red Sox.
That's right.
After he smokes you for, a 12 for 23 week.
Jared, thank you as always.
Thank you, Tony.
Kevin Majori's got your headlines here. Joe Murray has you for the balance of the night. I'm happy to report that he's not wearing a baseball hat backwards tonight. So Joe does not look like nearly the tool he did 24 hours ago. Majori is here with your headlines. We'll catch you next time.